Hi guys, so in today's video we're going to be taking another look at the GYS 3902 Dent puller system, and we're also going to be taking a look at the Manuliner attachment and what this can be used for as far as repair work goes. So this is the damage on the mini bonnet that we're going to be taking a look at today with the Manuliner, and also taking a look at the other attachments and processes that are involved with actually using the Dent puller system. So this is a few of the bits and pieces that we've got. Now for metal cleanup to start off with, one thing that I wouldn't recommend using is a flat disc, because a flat disc itself is going to take out a lot of the metal. So we actually use one of these clean and strip discs. These take the paint away, but without gouging too much in the metal, so we can keep the thickness of the metal. Obviously you need an angle grinder for that. And then we've got the kit here with all the different sort of attachments that we use. So we've got the squiggly wires, we've got the carbon shrinking rods, we've got the bar for the keys, loads of keys, and then we've got all the little attachments for the puller system, including the stars and all the little bits and pieces that go in to make this kit. And then the optional little bits we've got in here, we always keep a little flexible aluminium ruler and a piece of aluminium in there as a bit of a straight edge. Obviously our Swage line tool for when we're doing arches and stuff like that. All comes in extremely handy when you're doing little repairs like this, as well as the obvious sort of bits and pieces that we keep in the actual system itself, like the panel beating hammers, panel beating blocks, all that sort of stuff, all aids you along the way. Okay, so while I'm just getting this bonnet ready, I wanted to tell you about a Facebook group our sponsors PMP Supplies and myself have come together to set up, solely for help and support to people in the trade and wanting to learn the trade. Also, PMP Supplies have managed to get involved some huge names and brands from the industry in the group to offer advice and support for members, and there will also be exclusive members offers and discounts too. So check out the link in the video description today. Okay, so the repair that we're going to take a look at on this bonnet, for me, is a pretty much straightforward repair. And the way that I would start with this now I've got it all cleaned up, is to take a P80 on the block and just give this a little block across. Now what this will do is almost act like a guide coat. As you can see there, the low point in this bonnet has shown up really quickly. Now this is the way that I do all my repair work as far as metal work goes. It may not be the way that you've been taught, it may be different to the way that other people do it, but this is the way that I do it and I find it works very well for me. So what I do is give it a good block across, and again we're not removing the metal really, we're just scuffing it all up, but you can see it really does highlight very strongly all those low points in the panel, so we can now get a good visual aid of where we need to start working. So personally I will always start at the lowest point and at the point of impact. So on this particular damage, as you can tell, the main point of impact was up the middle. Now the bonus of the Manuliner over the slide hammer in this system is that you can just very gently tweak the metal. So when you've got something like this that you can't get behind with the panel beating blocks and the panel hammers, and you don't want to put a lot of pressure on it because it's quite a thin flexible panel, the Manuliner gives you a lot of control and a lot of precise control as well. So you can just very gently automatically spot this on like so, and just squeeze the handles together very gently. And because of the feet, it keeps the stress in the center between the feet, so you're not sort of pulling the whole panel at once like you would with a slide hammer. You're just very gently and very carefully working it little bit by bit. Now once I've given it a little pull at the middle to raise some of that low spot up, then I'm going to start working around the outside a little and try and raise the whole area. But I'm just going a very small amount each time, because what I really don't want to do at this stage is pull any high spots. And most of all, I would say the Manuliner is an extremely good sort of fine tuning tool as far as your metalwork goes. I mean, I'm no expert when it comes to metalwork, but I do think that I've got quite a bit of experience in it. There are guys that can use this system and get a perfect metal finish on a repair like this. I'm not that kind of guy. I can get this in a very nice position where I can just give this something like a skim of dolphin glaze, and then have the repair finished, and I'm quite happy at that. I can get this to a nice point where it's just low, but not too low so I'm filling it full of filler, but I can get that almost metal finish and then go from there. And to be honest with you, I have found the more that I use this system since we did the first video, the easier I find it to do metal work with it, and the more and more you use it, the better and better you get. Now we've done a first little pull on this, and as you can see we're only a couple of minutes in, and that front section there that I'm working on at the moment is already looking twice as good as it was when we started. Now I will give this another little block again, that is going to highlight those areas that are still low. So now I can go back and work those areas again and just work on those dark patches and just pulling those up and bringing everything to a nice point where it's nice and level. And as daft as this might sound, because this system really does save you a hell of a lot of time when it comes around to your metal repairs and your body repairs. So a tiny little bit of extra time here will save an absolute fortune in time and labour when it comes to the actual repair and the filler stage of the job. Now say on a typical job like this, I would have this done in around about 10 minutes, and within 15 minutes of grinding this down I would have the first skim of dolphin glaze or filler, depending on how bad it was when I'd finished the metalwork on it. Now even in this particular video, sort of guiding you through this and moving the camera around and everything like that, you know, this video goes on for about 20 minutes. So, you know, without the messing around with the camera in the way and all the rest of it, this would only take me around about 10 to 15 minutes at the maximum, and I would literally be finishing this in one skim of dolphin glaze, possibly two if I had a few pinholes or something like that, which on a nasty dent like this, and I mean this is a brand new bonnet that I bought for the purpose of doing this video, and I hit this as hard as I could with the tyre iron up the front of it. So this wasn't a light bit of damage, and it's quite awkward because the shape of this bonnet moves all the way around. And I suppose that is one bonus again with the Manuliner. You know, you can just work nice and steady, little bit by bit by bit, and work your way up section by section and get everything pulled out really nice, really carefully, and quite delicately as well. Now as you can see here, we've already got this to a point where it's looking really nice, so all I'm going to do now is I'm going to use the rotary DA just to give this a little bit of a smooth over. Now this is why I didn't want to use the flap disc at the start. I want that tiny little bit of play in the metal, so all I've got on here now is P80 on a rotary DA, and I'm just going to smooth out this top surface, and as you can see, bar a few tiny little bits, this is almost metal finish. Now if I really wanted to, I could spend that extra little bit of time and get this metal finish, but for me, having it to the point where it is now compared to what it was, that's close enough. That's more than close enough. I can just put the tiniest little skim of dolphin glaze on that front piece there, and that's the front section done. Now the front section is done, I can move up to the higher section and we can start working that. Now this has quite a large low in it. It's also got a high there where the bonnet is creased, and we've got the swage line of the bonnet itself. So we've got quite a lot going on here. So again, I'm just going to go through this step by step, take my time stage by stage, lifting one section and then knocking down the other to finish off with. And if you've not used one of these systems before, it does take a little bit of time to get the hang of. You know, it is quite easy sometimes to over pull things, so taking your time and just pulling it a little bit and just finessing the metal to where you want it, rather than just going really sort of gung-ho with the slide hammer and really giving it a massive smack and pulling it high and then having to work the high spots down. I would rather use something like this Manuliner on something delicate like this. And I mean, this isn't something that I was sent to review. I've got this for a job, that particular job that I had in at the time, and I liked it that much that I decided to do a video on it. And also, when I got in touch with PMP and said that I wanted to make a video on it, they also said that they would put up some offers when I put this video up for the GYS kit. So there are actually a few kits ranging in price. There is a slightly lower price kit called the 2700 pop liner, and then there is the 3902 kit, which is like what we've got here, and then there is the 3902 kit with the Manuliner as well. Now the offer that they have put up for you guys is that with the code P4P, which I will leave in the description, there is £100 off any of the actual kit forms of this dent puller system. And also with the code SPN, there is £50 off the Manuliner, which with some of the kits that's an optional accessory. Like when we first got our kit didn't come with the Manuliner, so for me this was an optional accessory that I bought, and I have to say it was a very, very good buy to add to our system. And it seems like a lot of money to spend to add for such a small tool, but the hours that this saves me just on one job, I've got to be honest. I did a white Mercedes with this the other week, and I know 2 other shops in my local area that would not touch it, and I spent 4 hours with my headphones in, and I had the whole thing metalworked and filled and in primer before the end of that afternoon. And literally I spent 4 hours on it, and it was absolutely perfect when I went out. But without something like this 3902 Dent puller system that we've got, as well as the Manuliner, there's no way I'd have got it anywhere near like I did. And even I looked at it and I thought this is going to be a bit of a difficult one. But 2 hours, 2.5 hours on the metalwork side, I took my time, spent a bit of time pulling, had a few little breaks, let my head settle down, came back to it, had a little pull, had a little play, fine-tuned it and worked my way through it, and that job alone would pay for one of these kits. And I do see a lot of questions in the Facebook groups about these sort of kits and whether they really are worth the money. And personally, after getting one of these kits, I was kind of kicking myself that I didn't have one sooner, because the amount of time, and obviously in our job time is money, so the amount of time this saves me as a business owner, it saves me a huge amount of labour every month. And literally, even if you've not got any big repair jobs, one of these kits will pay for itself within a month if you do the odd little bit of metal work, like this sort of, if you've got a couple of bonnet jobs like this, there's a lot less replacement going on, there's a lot more repairs, and they're all good, honest, sound repairs. There's nothing wrong with these repairs whatsoever. As you can see here, as we're working through this bonnet, I have sped some of the second half of this up because I don't want the video to go on too long for you guys. But as you can see, we're really cracking this big tire iron mark out of this bonnet quite easily. It's not taking too much effort. We're not going with we don't need a load of keys on this because it's not too heavily damaged. We're just taking the time, working all those low spots up. And now I'm just using a chisel, which I've ground flat, so it's a nice flat surface, just to try and tune any of these little high spots down as I'm working through this bonnet. And then I'll give it a little bit of a clean up, and we'll just tweak all these lows, and you can just keep going and fine tuning it. And you can sometimes get quite carried away actually with this Manuliner, because it can get it so close to a metal finish. You really can have a really good play with it. And you'll notice as I go along, every now and again I do keep blocking it, because I really want to make sure I know where those low spots are, where this bonnet is right and where it's wrong, so I can tweak it as and when I need to and where I need to, rather than doing guesswork. A quick little block with an 80 like this, as you can see, is really highlighting those lows as nice dark spots in the metalwork. Also, if you're like myself and you've got something like the straight edge, you can use the straight edge out that you put in the kit yourself, just to sort of check where things are, whether things are low, whether things are high. So if any little bits need shrinking back down or anything like that. But my biggest recommendation with one of these kits is just take that little bit of time. It does not take long at all. And as you can see, because of those 2 feet, we're bracing across the bonnet nicely. We're not bending anything else anywhere else. So we can just work now on these areas that we know are still out of place, and just one by one gently go across them and just fine tune everything back into place. I will also leave a link above in the top right hand corner for the video for the first kit, the very first video we did on this kit. And if you guys are interested in seeing more videos on metalwork and more panel beating videos in the future, then do let me know in the comments below, and I will make this a little bit more of a regular thing on the channel. Also, I will be starting to do some of the beginner videos again, as well as a couple more review videos. We've got a clear coat review coming up, a spray gun review coming up, and a few other bits and pieces that I'm working on at the moment. And I am sorry that I haven't uploaded for a little while, guys, but obviously with the virus, having the business and a family and everything, I've just had so much going on, and plus with the launch of the Swage line tool, which went completely mad compared to what I thought it would. The numbers that we sold there, we ended up putting that into a larger production in-house in our shop, so I've spent a lot of time working out how to organise all the injection moulding and the CNC machining for all that. So it's been a very busy, hectic few months and a very stressful few months one way or another, but now we are back to making videos. We are videoing quite regularly, so I will be having plenty more uploads. And if you guys, as I said, do want to see some more metalworking videos and some more panel beating videos and stuff like that, then do let me know and we will make this a little bit more of a regular thing on the channel. So as you can see, we're around about the 15-minute stage now into this repair, video wise anyway, and we've pretty much cracked off this whole repair. I'm just now working through some of these fine tuning bits up at this top end. We've got a little bit more work to do on the high spot that was sat in the middle, but I'm just working on getting these last harsh few little lows out, just one by one, just very gently, and I'm just moving this up a couple of millimeters each time. I've got the heat on quite a low setting as well. I've only got this on about 2. You don't, because it's got such a small contact point, you don't want a lot of heat going in there, because you don't want to risk any holes blowing in something like a bonnet or anything like that, because I have got no access to the back of this bonnet. All this section of the bonnet is actually braced, so I need to just work nice and carefully, nice and gently, and just work smart. You know, just pull it a little bit. If it's still a little bit low, you can always pull it more. The one thing that you don't want to be doing is getting carried away and pulling loads of high spots. Again, we're just working these little high areas, just tapping those down gently with that chisel that I have flattened off. That gives me a nice flat flush surface just to tap the highs down. If I had a sharp chisel, or you had a bit of a sharp object that you were trying to do that with, the issue is you'd be putting more lows in the bonnet, which obviously is something that I don't want to do. And again, we're just going to run this 80, and it's a rotary DA, so we're just using the 80 on this. And as you can see, it's not taking off a lot of metal. We're just gently smoothing out the surface. You know, we don't want to thin this metal right down so it's paper thin, but I can just use this as a little bit of a finishing tool just to take out any marks where obviously the welder's been welded into it and that sort of thing. And it will give me a little bit of an idea of where the metal's at as well. And also, if there is something that stands out as being a little bit too high where I've pulled it, it'll also highlight that, so I can get the shrinker attachment out and just shrink those down. Now at this stage, I've got to be honest, this is a pretty sound repair, but we still do have one or two little harsh low spots, as you can see there, just running along that little area and that little one at the top. Now, because I am a little bit of a perfectionist, you know, I can't help myself but go in and take these out. Now there would be no issue whatsoever putting some filler over that at that stage and then filling that. That wouldn't be an issue. Those few tiny little low spots, yes, they're harsh little low spots, but they're not deep at all. You know, they're only like literally millimeters down. But for me, if I can just get it that extra little bit before I start putting the filler on, then for me it's a more of a perfect repair, and the closer that I can get it, then obviously the less filler I'm putting in there. So personally for me, that makes for a better repair. So I am just going to go around and tweak those last harsh little lows, and it only takes a couple of little pulls per little low spot, especially say for something like that one in the middle there, which is a tiny little bit bigger. Just to lift the last little bit of metal up into place, and then you know you have got an almost perfect metal repair on what was something that, again, you know, this is quite a flimsy bonnet, and it was hit with a tire iron. It's not like it was something that's just had a slight little bump on the corner. This had a full hit at full force with a tire lever. To put the damage in it for the purpose of making this video on the Manuliner. And I have to say, the Manuliner from GYS is, for me, a must-have accessory to put with our dent puller system in the shop. There's so many times I have actually picked this up now instead of using the slide hammer, whereas obviously before we only had the slide hammer. But I did a little dent repair on a wing the other day, and the first thing I thought was, well, I don't really need the slide hammer and all that to faff about with. I can just get the Manuliner and give this a few little pulls, get it back pretty much where I need it, give it a quick skim, and I literally, again, within like 10-15 minutes, I was just putting filler on it, and again the repair was then minutes worth of work. So you can see just that tiny little bit of extra time there now has left those as the tiniest little low spots in that bonnet. This, for me, I am happy now just to finish cleaning this up with this 80. We'll give it a quick 320 all over, or should I say a 180 all over, to get this prep for filler, and then that was it, job done. As you can see, that is a really nice clean repair on what was a really harsh, nasty looking dent up the front of this mini bonnet. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, guys. Again, I will leave the discount codes and the links to all the different kits, and obviously the Manuliner optional accessory, in the description to the video. I do hope you've enjoyed this video, guys, and I shall see you again soon for the next one. Bye for now.